everybody! Long time, I guess no see, no hear. I don't even know how to start that off, but it's been a long time for myself, Andrew Goldberg, and my co-host John Alfonso. I Devaya here on NCAA Lax Gameday. You can tweet at us at Goldieberg, at NCAA Lax Gameday, and at John_A_I Devaya. I would like to offer an apology to all our listeners, however many we have, for not being on in, 3 or 4 weeks. Part of that's my own schedule with coaching high school lacrosse, and, John's also been busy with, covering lacrosse at Hofstra and other places for Inside Lacrosse, as well as here for us on InLacrosseWeTrust.com on Live 365. So we're actually doing a special little show on Easter Sunday because we skipped yesterday and all the other weeks. So, John, first off, how was your Easter?
Very filling. Still recovering from a food coma currently. As being in the big Italian family, there's plenty of desserts, big dinners. Throughout the day, you're constantly seeing family, and they're constantly forcing you to sit down and eat. So it's a gauntlet of fun, enjoyable, yet invigorating times to suffer to manage through.
Yeah, so for a Jew, for those of you who don't know or couldn't decipher that Goldberg's Jewish, right now it's Passover, so we basically are eating cardboard, and which in other words is matzah, and okay, yeah, matzah's good. What am I gonna give up? 8 days of matzah, or every Friday I don't have to eat meat for a couple hours? It's a real toss up there, John. Like, God, are you kidding me? You matzah plain, it's like I can't even describe it. It's like your whole entire mouth is just like dry. It's like sandpaper dry.
I've never hated matzah.
If you put something on it, it's like pretty good. Like, I put peanut butter on it, it's pretty good, but like either way it sucks. So what kind of food selection is there? Is it like no holds bar, just anything goes for a Passover dinner? Not Passover, for Easter. Yeah, it sounds like a meal, and especially with you being an Italian family, it's probably like 3 times the size.
Yep.
Yeah, that's nuts. But it's I'm definitely jealous by the food choice. We just have like matzo ball soup, and just anything without bread. So meat with it.
When does Passover end?
I'm a really bad Jew, but I would say I think it's tomorrow night. I think. Yeah. So, I haven't really been keeping it just because I did for a couple days, and then I accidentally ate a Caesar salad with, trying to be good. First of all, I was trying to be good with a Caesar salad, and then I forgot that the croutons were in there, and I started eating them, and then I just kind of gave up.
I got you.
Yeah.
Listen, I will admit that I broke the Good Friday rule of the Friday rule of don't eat meat. When you're working out and you need something to,
Exactly.
to fill you up,
Yeah.
and you can't eat fish every day, or like you don't have it readily available. When you come from the gym, you need to eat right away to restore the protein.
Right.
Restore, all
To get huge for beach season.
basically.
It's beach season, ladies and gentlemen.
And if you don't have tuna available, or you don't have an hour to wait to cook salmon or something,
Right.
You gotta eat the bag of beef jerky that's like right there staring and mocking you.
Yeah, you do. Anyway, this is a lacrosse show, just in case everyone forgot. And over the last 4 weeks, we have gotten a lot of great lacrosse results and a lot of really good games. I've randomly tweeted about it. I don't even know where to begin with this, but as we're, as the opening song indicated, it's the final countdown. We're going into the last couple games of the season, if not the last game of the season for everybody before conference tournament starts, so it's really the last chance for some teams to bolster their resumes that may be on the fringe. And it's a chance, obviously, for maybe a Detroit Mercy situation to happen, like last year, where a team with a below 500 just makes a run in the conference tournament and gets an automatic bid, thus bumping someone out, later on. And, John, I don't know where you want to start, but, we were talking earlier before we came on about the Big East. And when you look at the Big East, it's really not impressive. I don't know, you look at the records in conference. Denver has really dominated the conference since coming in after Notre Dame and Syracuse left. They're 5-0, 11-2 on the season. Then you have an underrated story this year is Marquette. The thing about them is they're 4-1 in conference, but 6-8 overall. Then you have Villanova at 3-2, St. John's at 3-3, Rutgers 2-3, Georgetown 1-4. St. John's and Rutgers are actually the only other two teams in the conference that have a 500 record or better. Everyone else is way below 500. So what do you make of the Big East? Is it like, I just don't know what to call it, because St. John's and Villanova were fringe top 20 teams. Rutgers had a lot of experience coming back heading into the year,
Yeah, I agree with you with that. St. John's and Villanova should have been better this year, but they both got off to they did not do good in their first 2 months. It's just plain and simple. Outside of the Hofstra win for St. John's just has not been that good. Their defense has been their biggest downfall, and they can't. As good as Kieran McCardle is, it's like the Princeton problem. As good as those two players are, McCardle and Schreiber, and we'll get the person later on, their defenses have been their biggest problem, and they basically been the downfall of their teams. Now, St. John's can still make the Big East tournament, but it needs help because Rutgers, if they get to 3-3, if they beat Georgetown next week, they will have the head-to-head advanced tiebreaker over St. John's and keep the Johnnies out of the Big East. Right now, it's Denver, Marquette, and Villanova that are definitely going in. So that last match next week is going to be the big one. And right now, St. John's is going to be sweating it out and have to hope that an eliminated Georgetown has to do them a big favor. But overall, as you said in the conference, I'm just very disappointed. And once Rutgers is gone, you got to hope that Providence can, they've been trying to get better each year. Providence's athletic department has done a better job. Looking forward, I think they'll be able to compete for that final spot in the years ahead. But right now, as the Big East sees right now, it definitely is one of the more disappointing and lower tier conferences, I would put it as.
Yeah, I mean, they were playing Denver tough last week for the first, I don't know, I'd say quarter, maybe 2 quarters. I think it was a close game. And then Denver kind of just blew it open because, Denver's one of the top teams in the nation. But, if you look at Providence, like you're saying, I mean, not a lot of bad losses. I mean, a lot of close losses. They lost, I'm not going to say Sacred Heart is a good loss. It's a really bad loss. But they lost to them by 1, Massachusetts by 5, Brown in double overtime, Bryant by 1, Yale by 3, Georgetown by 2, Marquette by 1, and then Denver was really the only big blowout. So, I mean, a couple balls bounced a different way in that game. Maybe they're the ones that are having a surprise season, especially in the Big East. But, I think it's really amazing, I guess, or not amazing, but Marquette has done a good job there. Granted, they are 6-8, but they're 4-1 in the conference with teams that like Villanova, St. John's, Rutgers, who were supposed to be, pretty good this year. I think that's an underrated story for how well they've played.
Oh yeah, Joe Ampel has done a tremendous job with his second-year program. I mean, they're going to their first conference tournament, and they've really taken advantage of their matchups. They've won their last 3 or 4 games: 11-10 over St. John's, 7-6 over Providence, and 11-10 over Georgetown. Again, this is a second-year program, and you're beating well-established teams. That's very good. These guys have been very well. And I've seen him before at Hofstra this year and last year in a few games. Tyler Melnick is very good. One of the more underrated finishers in the nation.
Canadian, right?
Yeah, Calgary, Alberta.
Yeah.
36 goals. 36 goals. The highest scorer is Kyle Whitlow with 19, and Brian Bottolato with 19.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be something said. All right, let's go with that tangent real quick. Or actually, before I get to that, I just want to make a quick note. I don't know if you've seen a lot of the Villanova games this year, just in passing, but I think they put Lacasio on the man up. Because I was watching that St. John's game, and I was, casually watching. I'm like, oh, man up, it's a close game. This is going to be good. And I see a pull out there. And I go, is that Lacasio? Lacasio has 14 points on the season before that game. He had 4 goals, or 15 points, I should say, or 16. 4 goals, 12 assists coming in, along with all the defensive accolades, the big ground ball numbers, big cause takeaway numbers. I'm shocked that he's on man up.
I know. I'll be honest. I heard it. I didn't see it. But you telling me this, I'm more shocked now. But
Yeah, go back to the highlight and look.
I mean, Lacasio, my gosh, has been remarkable. It's funny actually. I was at Lizard training camp on Friday, and
Right.
I was talking to Brian Carol Lewis and talking to him about Lacasio. And Carol Lewis is telling me just like how impressed he has been. He said that he knew Lacasio was going to be great. After he graduated, had the potential. I don't think he expected the offensive output though that a long pole like him was capable of though. That's it's still remarkable though.
Yeah, he could be this year's Mason Pulley with a meaner defensive game. And by the way, just a side tangent note on that is his brother also committed to Villanova from New Jersey. And he is also a defenseman. So it could be scary to see, what the Lacasio lineage has in store for Villanova going down the line. But what I wanted to get to is surprises, and I think a couple things happened. So at the beginning of the year, we were harping on Towson. I think you and I were both heavily on the bandwagon. We had our seatbelts buckled. We had, our, cups ready to go.
I think it was safe to say we were on the Towson bandwagon.
We were firmly on that. We were leading the charge. We even had head coach Sean Nadalin on to talk to him, and we even told him how much we loved it. And they haven't had a great season. We thought they would be around second place, really pushing for a top 20 team. They're 2-3 this year, 8-5 overall, but 2-3 in the conference. And I think what we missed on is your boys from Hofstra killing it this year, really impressing everybody. 10-3, 4-0 on the year. They're actually the top seed in the CAA over Penn State. I know Penn State doesn't have the bid this year, but Penn State was only 6-6, 2-2 in conference. Drexel 4-1. Delaware finished the year 0-4. Massachusetts, after a strong start those first couple games, only 1-3 in the conference. So it was like a huge role reversal throughout the whole conference.
Yeah, UMass is not in a safe place right now. They're 1-3, as you said,
Right.
but they have to play Delaware next week. And if Delaware wins, they will get into the conference tournament as the 4th seed because of the tiebreaker over UMass. It's funny how the CAA happens to work, Andrew.
Wait, but how's that possible if Towson's 2-3, so they would have to play one more game? No, they can't play one more game, right?
Here's how it works.
Okay.
Towson's locked up the number 1 seed
Right.
the conference.
Oh, right, because Penn State's not in. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Drexel is second, and Towson's going to be locked up at 3rd.
Right.
Penn State. Penn State doesn't exist right now.
Right, I forgot. Yeah.
And so, while Delaware lost this week, they're 0-4.
Right.
The only way they can still get in, as I said, because
Yeah.
they're playing UMass.
Yeah.
If UMass loses, they'll be 1-4 as well, and Delaware will have the tiebreaker.
Right. That was just dumb, me being an airhead. It must be a lack of bread in my diet.
But Towson, they're not out of it, though. They're in the conference. That's all that matters. They can still beat Drexel. But I will say that if it's not Hofstra Drexel in the final, I will be surprised, honestly, because just the way that both these teams have really stepped it up. I mean, losing to Hofstra at Vitus really turned Drexel's season around as well, in a way, because they were playing inconsistent lacrosse for the most part. They lose to Hofstra on March 22nd, and they've won every game since then. They beat St. Joe, they beat Delaware, Penn State, and UMass, and now Towson. And then they just have High Point on the 25th before entering the CAA against Towson. Drexel's offense is one of the more underrated in the nation, and really, Ben McIntosh and Nick Trezano are two of the more underrated players in the nation. Both have combined for 67 goals.
Yeah, and I think part of Drexel's kind of up and down season was the slate out of conference for them. Virginia, Albany, Villanova, their first 3 games. and they lost. And every game in that span was decided by 1 goal. Robert Morris, they beat up on 18-12, which is actually not beating up on, but like kind of. They actually beat St. John's. They lost to Bryant by 6, and took care of St. Mary's, and then lost to Hofstra. But I mean, Hofstra. I mean, we can't. I feel like we're not giving them enough credit for some reason. Seth Tierney's done a hell of a job there. I mean, when I saw that Princeton game, I texted you. I said, "Did you see the score?" And you're like, "No, what happened?" And I said, Hofstra basically had that game won, and then they just melted down because of stupid penalties, which let Tommy Schreiber and the boys back in the game, and they threw it away. Otherwise, they were up, I think, 7 or 8 to like 5-ish in the third quarter, and they should have won that game. Yeah, especially as a midfield unit too, because now you got threats all over the place. You can, if you pull one of them, like let's say you're just going off points, and you say, opposing coach says, okay, Drew Koholin, he has 28 points. He's the leader out of those two, 26 for Malav and 22 for Hendrickson. So you pull, Drew, and then you got Malav and Hendrickson who can hurt you. But I think what you started to see happen is once Hofstra started to get those wins, I think Sam Linares started to hit the spotlight. He's a really good player, and he was big in Princeton. He's really been big in every single game for them, and obviously as he goes, so does the team. He has 45 points on the season. Obviously, he's not going to be in the conversation when it comes to points. Lyle Thompson is 80, Miles Thompson is 77, McCardle 73, etc. But in terms of his importance to the team, he had to get some, albeit consideration for the Tewaaraton. Just,
I will say this, that he's going to be an all-conference player. I do hope that if this team does make, if they make the NCAA tournament, that he gets some recognition nationally and can get an All-American, honestly, because he's playing like it. He will get an All-American at some point in his career. The kid has been sensational. He makes plays happen when there shouldn't be a play to be made. The Cornell game shouldn't have gone to overtime, but Sam Linares somehow finally beats his defender after the defender
Well, they're efficient, I would say.
Yes, they're efficient because they can finish, but they try and take their time. They wear the defense down, and that's what happened this weekend with UMass. By the end of the third quarter, UMass's defense was gassed because that third quarter, Hofstra just controlled the ball. Like the end of the third quarter, they had a possession that lasted 3 minutes. All they did was kept taking shots off cage, and you can't throw the timer on. And then they finally score that go-ahead goal, and then they win another faceoff and do it again.
Right, exactly. And the last note I wanted to make on the Hofstra is actually Chris Selva was a strong point in terms of a guy who I saw was going to have to carry that defense after losing a couple starters from last year. He had 60% save percentage last year. This year he only has a 51 save percentage, but the team's playing a lot better. So I just think that's an interesting dynamic. And I guess if we're going like, you know how all the sports are going into next level analytics and, you know, really looking at numbers and how to better quantify players, maybe save percentage isn't the be-all, end-all, for goalie statistics. Just a note. I do want to talk about the Ivy League, though, John, because I don't know what happened. Cornell looked to be in the driver's seat, you know, going through this whole entire year, just nationally, I would say, and even in the Ivy League. We thought Princeton was going to shake off like a slow start, like I said, against Hofstra. And, you know, oh my God, what happened? They've been up and down everywhere.
I called it, Andrew. I will go on record because I did say it
Yeah.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I said that, if I remember the game correctly, and the date that I said it, that loss that they had with Hopkins and Carolina
Right.
could turn into a tailspin.
Yeah.
Now, they beat Penn and Villanova, but then lost to Yale Brown, and now the loss to Harvard have effectively ended Princeton's season. Basically, the games that they've had to win, they have lost. That has been their tailspin. They haven't, outside of the Hofstra game, they have lost every game that they needed to win.
Yeah, and they didn't do anything nationally either. I mean,
No.
you know what was weird? I think what really speaks to about Princeton lacrosse and New Jersey lacrosse in general is Princeton used to be, you know, the unquestioned #1 team in this state, right? You know, this and obviously, you know, the nation. They always played Syracuse, Princeton in the national title for however many years in the 90s. But now, like, they played Rutgers. I went down there to cover it for In Lacrosse We Trust. And I mean, Rutgers was giving them a really good game. Rutgers was up, I think, 5-3 or 6-3, you know, going into the second quarter, and then all of a sudden Rutgers kind of fell apart. Princeton beat them 15-11, but like, I'm really scared to see what happens with this team next year when Tommy Schreiber's not on the team. Because without him, I tweeted this out, I think, last week or whatever. Without him, they would be a 4-win team.
I feel bad that next Saturday is going to be the final game of Tommy Schreiber's career. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel bad. He has been arguably one of the best midfielders to play this game. But you know what? I said it before the season started. I wanted to see if he could carry the team, and he has carried them to an extent. But I mentioned before today, the too many holes, especially on the defensive end, have hurt them tremendously. And while Princeton's offense is an NCAA tournament quality, their defense is not. In fact, I just did my media poll. I just drew Princeton right off the top 20, honestly.
As they should. I mean,
They shouldn't.
who have they really won? They lost to Hopkins. They lost to Carolina. They beat Hofstra by 2 at the beginning of the year, a game which they should have lost. The only other impressive wins are a double overtime win over Lehigh, which they should have lost, and Villanova and Penn. But that, like, nothing there strikes you as a win. They were getting They were getting in the top 20 on reputation.
So, and even if they win next week against Cornell, it's not enough. It's
No,
not enough.
no, not at all. And you know, that goalie battle too. You talked about the inconsistencies on defense. Matt O'Connor, Brian Cavanaugh were the two guys they were splitting, and then they went to Eric Sandstrom the last couple games. So I mean, it's all over the place there. I pointed this out last time we were on. maybe not this year. He'll be fired, at the end of this year. But his seat's going to be very warm going into next year.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Princeton has not been the same, honestly, since Tierney left. And obviously
Right.
that's very difficult to do, filling in the shoes of Bill Tierney.
Right.
But I don't see Princeton as having made a lot of progress. I mean, they did make two decent runs in the NCAA recently, but I mean,
For where they were. You
yes,
get
from where
greedy,
they-
right?
Yes, from
Yeah.
where they were, I would not be surprised if Bates is on the hot seat next season. They've got to rebuild the defense. That's
Right.
the biggest thing. They're still going to have good returning offensive scores, but they've got to get better on the defensive end in order to have a shot. They need to win the Ivy League. They need to compete with the Ivy League. That's their big thing right now. And if we could talk about the rest of the league right now, Cornell, for example.
Yes.
The week of hell they had.
Oh,
From
God.
April 5th to the 12th.
Yeah.
Losing to Harvard, losing badly to Syracuse. Both games, by the way, by the same exact score. And then to Hofstra in overtime. By the way, they scored they scored 9 goals in all 3 games, by the way.
Yes,
And their
yeah.
big scores, Busick and Donovan, did not have good weeks.
Yeah, Littner's been carrying them. I had put Busick on my little Tewaaraton Watch List a couple weeks ago when they were still undefeated because he was putting up points, and he was a really good player for them, and they were undefeated, and no one was really talking about him, especially from the midfield position. If you looked at the time, the only guys who were producing more were Tommy Schreiber, who I put ahead of him, and Shannon Chuck. And Shannon Chuck was only a point or two better. Same thing with Schreiber, actually. And so, I mean, Busick deserved the recognition. Now that they've lost 3 games, I mean, they still deserve recognition. They'll be in the NCAA tournament. Even if they somehow lose, I think they'll be in the, lose in either the Ivy League or even against Princeton. I think they'll still be in it.
I don't know, man. I actually am not 100% concrete now because look at Virginia. That's their best win right now on their resume, and Virginia's not going to the ACC. And if
Right.
they lose to North Carolina on Saturday, they might not even make the NCAA tournament. I know it's hard to believe, but
No, but I don't think they do. I don't think they do even if they beat North Carolina because they're
let's see.
I don't know. They're 9-5. They'd be 1-5 in conference.
The thing that's helping them is they've got wins. They have wins over Loyola, Drexel, Syracuse, and Hopkins. I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
If you add North Carolina, I think that's enough to get them over the top. But
Right.
I,
And they still have a top 20 ranking too, don't they?
I know, but the thing
Yeah.
is, it's just going to be very hard, I would say, for them. And again, for Cornell, with Virginia being the only win that's notable on their thing, to me, if they make the Ivy League championship, I think Cornell's safely in.
Right.
But again, we'll have to find out. They
Right.
can't stumble from this point on.
Yeah.
I even talked to Matt Donovan after the game at Hofstra. Their coach basically told them that from here on out they have to focus on the Ivy League. They can't worry about the at large because
No.
right now it's too murky right
They
now.
can't. But I do. Oh yeah. Get your last note in.
My last note on the Ivy, I want to give a lot of credit to Harvard. Harvard has finally turned the corner. We've been waiting for years for this to happen, and the Crimson are finally becoming the team that we expected them to. Coach Wojcik's boys are finally playing very well. And they've got a lot of balance, honestly. Peter Schwartz with 39 points, Will Walker 34. Devin Dwyer, man, sophomore from Garden City. I knew this kid was going to be pretty good. 10 goals, 23 assists. He's been the playmaker for that team already. They've been pretty damn good, and I put them in my top 20 rankings this week in the media poll.
Yeah, you know what's shocking? I'm gonna admit, which probably shouldn't be good, but I haven't. I've seen people tweet and talk about how good Devin Dwyer is. 10 points, 23 assists is pretty darn good, especially for the Ivy League where they kind of tend to slow it down a lot. But this team's pretty young, at least offensively. They got 2 seniors in their top 6. The rest of them are sophomores. Defensively, they'll bring back senior Jake Gambitsky next year. I don't know as far as their close defense what they'll bring back, but this could be a team down the road. Maybe this is a turnaround year for them.
Agreed. I mean, remember, they've had so many draft
So let's get away from the conference stuff because we can really talk about the ACC in the big picture, which I want to get to. First of all, my boys of Maryland taking the ACC crown, #1 seed, Terps baby. But second of all, is the big picture. I have two questions. One, is Denver the most underrated, really good team that we've seen in the last couple years? Because they're 11-2, #3 in the nation right now, but no one talks about them or any of their players really, at least, nationally, because they're not really on TV that much, not a lot of big games that are seen on like ESPNU and stuff. And also, I mean, if you posed a good question. If Virginia wins, does that mean can the NCAA tournament accept all 6 ACC teams?
I just don't know, honestly. I think North Carolina's getting in. Their resume to me is too good.
Oh, I'm not saying if they lose, but I think the top 5 is locked in. Maybe actually not Notre Dame. They're only 6-5 this year, and 2-3 in conference. But I think all those teams are in the top 20 for the most part. So if you're going based off top 20 rankings, which usually you do, if Virginia wins, it's another big key win, like you just said. They beat Loyola at the beginning of the year. They beat Drexel. They beat Syracuse. They beat North Carolina. They got to be in, right?
I think it would be very hard not to keep them out. But again, I mean, it depends on what the committee is going to be. Remember,
Right.
They have those extra 4 teams now.
Right.
There's the 2 play-in games. It's going to be interesting because if there's a lot of teams that are right there, I would not be shocked if the committee, to set a precedence going forward, basically denied one of the ACC teams. Again, it depends on how the other teams do, I would say. Because I think for example, I think another CAA team could get it. Then I could see Drexel maybe being a play-in, for example. But I think they would be the only ones. I could see another Ivy team. Like maybe if Harvard runs the table, maybe.
Right.
Or even if Penn doesn't win.
What about two from the Patriot?
Oh yeah,
Or
Army.
three. Sorry, because you got Lehigh, you got Army, you got Loyola.
Yeah, I know. That's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I mean, so if we were seeding it right now, we don't have to give you okay, who are my #1 seeds, et cetera, et cetera. But let's go conference by conference. So ACC, how many teams do you think would make it right now?
I think right now 5. I will go 5, and I'll stand by Virginia doesn't get in.
Okay, I say 4 because Notre Dame I don't think has a good enough record. They're only 6-5, John, and they're 2-3 in the ACC. They have 2 games left against Maryland. They got the Maryland game who they're gonna play Friday, and then they got a game after against Army.
Yeah, listen. If they lose their last 3, they aren't even eligible for the NCAA.
Right.
And there's a good chance they lose on Friday to Maryland again.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, obviously, if they get another win, maybe they're in the conversation. But for me, right now, it would be 4. America East right now: Binghamton 4-0, Albany 4-0, UMBC 2-2. 1 at the most, I would say. Right.
It absolutely wants the conference winner. Albany doesn't get in even if they lose.
Right. And then the Atlantic Sun is definitely 1 because they're all just newbies, basically.
Yeah. Same with the MAC. Same with the NEC. Actually, that's a good question. Does Bryant get in if they lose the NEC?
Right, because St. Joe's is the #1 seed, surprisingly. 5-0, 10-3.
They've been a nice surprise. They've been really under the radar this year. Now, some people have given them credit, but not enough people have recognized that they have 10 wins.
Yeah.
This is the best season
Ever.
the program's ever done.
Ever. I don't know where this has come from. I don't know if it's because Wagner is now part of their I don't know.
I think I would like to say that because they escaped the brutal CAA and they are no longer the sacrificial lamb of the conference.
They are
finally able to exercise being a lacrosse team that doesn't get destroyed.
Right.
I mean, not for nothing. Again, they've done a great job, and I'm happy to see that they've really turned it around. Because now it's another great Philadelphia team that's going to be battling, for supremacy. And Philadelphia, I mean, you look at it. How many schools are there that are playing each other? You got Villanova, you got Penn, now you got St. Joe's there as well.
Drexel. Yeah.
Yeah, that Philly, was a battleground for lacrosse.
Yeah. Well, it year by year produces some of the best talent in the nation. So I mean, it's not really shocking, but it's just those. It just seems that those guys from the Philly area, from the main line, they all go elsewhere. They go to Duke and they go to Hopkins, et cetera, et cetera. So okay, let's say 4 or 5 at the most in the ACC. You got one in 1, 2. The ECAC is Ohio State. It's one guy. It's one team.
And I think, the Fairfield loss just recently is going to hurt them.
Right.
I believe now. I think that loss they just had is going to keep them out of the bubble now, and I think they have to win. I agree. I think the ECAC is one now. I think Fairfield just gave up their chance.
After getting blown out by Air Force, that's a bad loss.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Air Force has been sneaking up now recently, but
but
it
still.
definitely is.
Yeah, so you have 3 or 4 conferences that have 1 bid each, which means there's 10 spots left for the Patriot League, which could be 3, an independent in Johns Hopkins 1, that's 4. Maybe the Northeast gets 1 or 2, maybe pushes it.
Let's go with 1 right now. Let's say
okay, 1, so that's 5. Then you have the Colonial 2, Ivy 2, maybe 3, Big East 1 or 2 at the most. Because I don't. If
it's gonna be
1, right? Because of what we talked about with the conferences.
Yeah, I think it will be Villanova and Denver in the conference final, but
right.
I just think Denver's overwhelming firepower keeps them out, and given Villanova's struggle earlier in the year, that keeps them out as well.
Okay, so that's about 17, 18 spots. So for those bubble, wow, you know what? There could be all 6 ACC teams in, because even if Notre Dame loses, because who else on this? I'm looking at the standings right now. Who else are you going to take from other conferences? I mean, Princeton, honestly, you could say they're over, but if they get Cornell win, like, they could be on a bubble for people to at least give them recognition for something. Like think about it.
You know what? That's true, but don't forget, like, even if you beat a top 5 team, that can't be just your only thing to get into the tournament. I mean,
No.
Hofstra did that last year, and they didn't get in, even though
Right.
they missed the CAA. You gotta build something else over that. And again, Princeton doesn't really have much outside of the Hofstra win right now.
Right. So maybe do you take Colgate, a 4th team for Patriot?
No.
Okay.
Colgate's schedule has been very weak this year.
All right.
And they've done a good job of taking advantage of it, but
Right.
it's too weak, honestly. I would, personally for me, I would put a team like Army in there, who's done a great job, I felt, of playing their schedule. Now, the problem for them, though, is they don't have a resume win, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, but they are 7-1 in the conference.
I know. That's the big thing. And they are 9-3 on the season.
Yeah, and their one loss was to, who was it? It was to Loyola by 1.
Exactly. They
Right.
almost beat Loyola.
Right.
And don't forget, even if they don't win the Patriot, they still have Notre Dame to finish the season. And hey, even if Notre Dame finishes 6-7 on the season, it's still a good win because Notre Dame is still a resume team up till that date.
Right.
On Selection Sunday.
Yeah, so basically what we just went through, I think there's only 18 to 19 teams. I would say 18. That 19 and 20 spot could be a bid between the last ACC team and another either Patriot League team. I actually included the 3 Patriot teams, so Loyola, Army, and Lehigh are in.
I don't know about Lehigh. I think Patriots too. I think it's got to be too. Because, again, same thing with Army. Lehigh actually hasn't impressed me, I'll be honest. I know they're 11-4, but they just don't have that same bravado that I've seen from them lately. And not to mention their schedule,
It's weak. It's really weak.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's weak.
They played 4 ranked teams. They lost to Loyola by 7, Yale by 8 in a game which they only scored 2 goals, Army by 1, and Princeton in overtime double overtime by 1.
Exactly. Those ranked games, they haven't won. And
Right.
the first 2 they played, they were embarrassed.
Yeah, it wasn't close.
I honestly I couldn't see a reason to put Lehigh in. And you know what? That's what the Army was, same thing. So you know what? If
then maybe a team like Penn sneaks in for the Ivy. Yeah.
Honestly, Penn's a top 10 team right now. They've done a good job, and I think.
No, yeah, I'm not down that. I'm just saying you look at the whole thing. Like there's a lot of teams now kind of squabbling for that 19-20 spot, even 18.
What about Yale? Yale is going to be on the fence as well, I think.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. I don't know. I think like you have about 17 seeds locked in. Then you got about 6 teams who you could argue based on, number of wins or strength of schedule comes into play or any of that stuff. I think it's really interesting. One thing I guess we want to wrap up on, because we're kind of hitting everything, and obviously Game of Thrones is on, John. We can't miss Game of Thrones.
You want to quickly just go over the conference tournaments this week with the Patriot and the ACC?
Well, I kind of actually wanted to go with the Tewaaraton Watch List, because I think we got a lot of guys. We haven't really talked about that a lot because it was still the middle of the season and everything before we hit our hiatus. So I kind of want to talk about who is it only Lyle Thompson and everyone else, or does a guy like, okay, so what I was writing in my article, when I did it mid-season, was I kind of ranked it the top like 11, 12 guys who I thought should be considered, and I separated into tiers. So I got the guy who like deserved recognition, which was Joseph Nardella for me, but has no way in hell in winning. Then I had the guys who are like long shots, who like putting up good stats, but one thing or another, they're not going to win. Then I kind of based it on your stats, your importance to your team, your team's record, and how good you are comparatively to the rest of like your position. So a guy like Miles Thompson may have more points than a guy like Tommy Schreiber, but his team's worse, and if you took away Miles Thompson, Albany's still pretty damn good on offense, and you take away Tommy Schreiber from Princeton, they're a 4-win team. So I guess based on all that, what would you say is your top 5? Let's say.
I'll be honest, I've done some Torton watch stuff as well.
Right.
There's no favorite right now.
Really? Even with Lyle, Lyle Thompson's raking in points though.
I understand he is.
Right.
I really do.
Yeah.
But the problem is also Albany's not in the same level right now in terms of like the national stage. And don't get me wrong, he's still very important to his team's success. And if they intend to make the NCAA tournament, and let's face it, they're going to be a play-in game, even if they make it. They need him to be at his best, obviously. But I look at other teams like Syracuse right now. Kevin Rice has been phenomenal. He's been very clutch for them this year.
How about Henry Stotts putting up the stats?
That too. They have been Syracuse obviously could have been in dire straits after that 2 games.
Oh my God, yes.
But Rice and Stotts have both really done a tremendous job, and they've won 5 straight. By the way, that's an interesting thing to note that Syracuse is playing Duke this week in a rematch, by the way, in the semifinals of
Right.
the ACC.
And that was a 21-7 game too at Duke.
This is going to be so fun to watch to see if Syracuse, actually keeps this close again, or if Duke once again runs them off the field. But on the Tewaaraton, it's just so interesting how I look at it. Again, I do think Lyle is going to be at, when the Final 5 are announced, Lyle's going to be on it. But I just don't see if there's an absolute favorite, honestly. I just don't know.
Yeah.
You know what? We talked about it before the season. There's a lot of good players right now.
Oh yeah.
But there's not a star. We don't have that many stars left right now in D1. Schreiber's a star.
Yeah, but I think if Princeton had been better, I think he would be the unquestioned guy. Like, let's say Princeton would be making the tournament right now and Albany's in the same position. I think Schreiber's running away with it.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But again, it comes to team success as well. And
Right.
unfortunately, Princeton has brought him down.
So who would win between, I would say, because, all right, so let's go with like top 8 or top 10 right now. These are the guys who are leading in points. I'm not saying points are everything, but this is just a generalization. So you got Lyle number 1, Miles 2, Kieran McCardell 3, Jordan Wolfe, Dan Taylor out of Lehigh, Justin Ward, Richie Hurley from Siena, King from Ohio State, Kevin Rice, Syracuse, Mark Cockerton, Virginia. To me, I guess with everything kind of put in, you would put Jordan Wolf and Justin Ward 1 and 2, maybe everyone else after.
I am going to throw 2 names in there.
Okay.
The way the season's going, maybe this is the first season we get a non-midfield / attackman win the Tewaaraton.
Joe Fletcher?
So I'll make 3 then. Joe Fletcher is 1.
Okay.
Lacasio is 2.
Interesting.
Sam Summers, goaltender for the Army Black Knights, is 3.
Interesting. I don't think Lacasio could be because of what you were saying in terms of team success because they were bad.
Well, here's the thing. What if Villanova upsets Denver to win the Big East?
Well, then that's a different narrative.
Because I think Lacasio has been the same throughout. It's just that the team has struggled in terms of offense. They really were not good at scoring.
Right.
And they just could not get off the schneid for whatever reason. But now they've suddenly gone this hot streak. Lacasio stayed the same though, but it's just the fact that he's also put up offensive numbers for what he is. I mean,
He's put up 16 points for a defender.
Exactly. We haven't seen this since Costabile.
Yeah.
Costabile was a finalist.
Right.
I mean, that's why I'm saying, and you're telling me he's playing, EMO offense?
Yeah.
That's a long ball?
Yeah.
What?
He's on their emo. It's awesome.
That's what I'm saying. If Villanova can find a way to go deep, because also don't forget, when's the last player who, let's be honest, won the Tewaaraton for his merits to his team that didn't go deep in the NCAA tournament? That was Doug Shanahan, the first winner of the Tewaaraton. Ever since then,
my
it's
God.
been the tournament.
Yeah.
And
Right.
to me, Lacasio would make so much sense. Summers, I brought him up before for Army. And yes, Army has the best defense in the nation. I understand that. But he's been one of the best goaltenders as well. He's been remarkable, honestly.
Yeah, I want to throw even more names into the discussion based on team and stuff. Wells Stanwyck, 51 points. His team's done well. Joey Sankey, same 51 points. Team has done better by 1 game. And then the guys from Denver, Wesley Berg, Jack Bobzian, maybe even. And even Connor Butchek from Cornell. I mean,
I will throw another goaltender into the discussion.
Right.
Gunnar Walls O'Brien.
yeah, I was gonna say he's second in the nation in save percentage.
You know what I just realized? Well, Summers has done good. He's made 81 saves. Walt has a better save percentage of over 62%.
And
has
doubles.
made 106 saves.
Right, doubles it. What about Jack Runkle from Loyola? After those first 2 games, or the first game really, where he looked terrible, he's actually been one of the reasons why Loyola's defense has played better.
That's true. He's done great. He's played 133 saves, so just under 62 save percentage. He's been good, man. Again, that's why I said I think
Yeah.
this team could be the year that we have a defensive player win it. Because you know what? There's been a lot of good offensive players, but outside Lyle Thompson, who has been like a dominant offensive player.
I mean, you could make a case of Justin Ward just because he has 45 assists and he literally is that offense, and you know what I mean.
Right. Not
Yeah.
to take anything away from him,
Right.
but you also have Pontrello as well, who's been remarkable.
Yeah, but he's just getting fed from Ward. Ward's doing the hard part. Pontrella's just literally just putting it into the net, you know.
I mean, Kieran McCardle, honestly, he could. I mean, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I think that McCardle has, because McCardle has won St. John's games this year.
Yeah.
That's been a difference. This year, I would put
This
him
past
over
week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Hofstra game, he won it in overtime with the
Right.
6-goal performance. Yesterday, he won with the 3-goal performance in overtime, and
Right.
he's done remarkable. Honestly, even if Schreiber was having I'd say they won 2 other games, and Fritz was, I'd say, comfortably in the Ivy. I would still have Kieran McCardle over Schreiber for the Tewaaraton right now.
Yeah, a lot of interesting names. I think this is the most wide open we've seen in a while, and it's comparative to what happened 2 years ago in in college football. Johnny Manziel and Manti Te'o. I think we could be seeing that this year in lacrosse. Yeah. Let's finish with that. Let's finish with some conference tournament predictions, I guess we would say, for this week. I don't know how many. I know the ACC's going in. I know the Patriot League too. Are they the only two to go, right?
These are the only two that are happening this week.
Because
so
all the others are quarters.
Right. So
Right.
Let's start with the Patriot League. Because obviously there are 10 teams in the conference, there will be a 16 playoffs.
Right.
So what happens is Loyola and Army are the top 2 seeds. They get a bye in the first round. So the midweek games will include Loyola. They will take on. Hold on.
No, it can't be Loyola. It's Delaware, UMass.
Sorry. Lehigh. Lehigh will be taking on Navy.
Right.
And Colgate will be taking on Bucknell.
Right.
So then after that, if I'm not mistaken, Lehigh plays Loyola, and then Army takes on the winner of Colgate Bucknell.
Who's the fourth? Who's the two? The 2-6 will play the second seed, so they will play Army. So who's the two? The 3-6 game. Sorry, I think.
That's Lehigh Navy. So the Lehigh Navy game winner plays Army.
Oh no, they should play a top seed because yeah. They should play Army because if the 3 seed wins, it would be the worst seed or whatever, and the 4-5 technically is the lowest possible game, so that should go to the 1. So yeah, so the 4-5 matchup will play Loyola this weekend, I guess.
So that's really interesting then. So in those games, I mean, I think Lehigh wins against Navy. I think Colgate squeaks out against Bucknell. That's going to be closer than I think. And then for me, I would have Army over Lehigh again, Loyola easily over Colgate, and then top 2 seeds be in the conference tournament. And I think it's another nail biter that Loyola pulls out.
Yeah, they've been it's been interesting. They really handled Bucknell this weekend. They shut them down for about 3 quarters before, Lacrosse is a game of runs, and Bucknell hit their run, but it was really, really late, and they were dead in the water. But I agree with you. I think the only difference I think I'll go with is Bucknell beating Colgate. I think Bucknell win, and then Lehigh winning as well. Lehigh has the potential to pull the upset over Army. Obviously. I kind of want to be different from you and just be that guy, but I do think Army, it sets up a rematch of that 1-goal game, and we're in for a classic in the championship game.
And honestly, I do like Army's chances, honestly. They play Loyola very well. They're not going to sneak up on them, but Army plays so well, honestly, against those higher offensive teams, because they do a great job of shutting them down.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what it is, though? In that game against Loyola, Gleasner took 22 shots.
What?
He scored. He went 2 of 22.
Oh my
in that
God.
Loyola game. So Fletcher, they're talking to Fletcher after the game, like, you held him to 2 goals, but he had 22 shots on you. They're like, yeah, I did my job.
Yeah.
Made sure that you didn't score after.
I have a save percentage. I have a shooting percentage. It's terrible. It's below 10%.
No, it's shockingly, it's actually in the lower 20s, but he's taking over 130 shots. The guy's just it's like a machine gun. You give him the ball, he's gonna fire.
Yeah, it's
But,
just good shooters keep shooting, John.
Exactly. 32 goals, 44 points. He's gonna warrant All-American honors for the midfield because he's
As he should.
good.
As he should.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's very good.
And then
The rest of that team is actually, 26 points, 12 and 11, nothing to scoff at offensively, but I mean, they do the job, honestly.
yeah, especially the way they play. They grind it out, which helps them in the tournament when you really value each possession. Because teams that go up and down, not really going to happen in the tournament. You see that in college basketball. The teams that go up and down, breakneck pace, never win the whole thing. Army has a really good chance if they get in to make a deep run because of their style.
And don't forget, they play Notre Dame at the end of the season.
Right.
And I think that is because Notre Dame is not the same grinded out team that we've seen in years past.
They have nobody outside of Kavanaugh. It is like Kavanaugh with like 40 points and nobody else.
And they also don't have the same defense. Their goaltending has been shockingly bad.
Oh yeah.
I've been very surprised. Like, I just can't believe how bad the goaltending's been. And I honestly think Army's going to win that game. I'll be honest. I think Army wins that game.
They have a hell of a chance to pull off the quote-unquote upset if you see it that way.
Yeah. I really think they could. And you know what? I think this Friday is the must-win game, honestly, for Notre Dame.
that's a rough stretch.
Exactly, because Army's going to beat the heck out of you in that game.
Yeah, and let's talk about the ACC. Let's finish with that because, and we'll start right there with the 1-4 matchup of Maryland and Notre Dame. Because if you looked at the box score says Maryland won by 4, but they really won by like 2 because Notre Dame had to go out of the cage and start doubling, and Maryland kind of just scored on an empty net.
And don't forget, Notre Dame came back in this game as well. And
Right.
It's always hard when you're that team that wins 1 week and you have to play again because that team that lost will analyze everything to figure out how they have to beat you again. So Maryland technically is at a disadvantage this week because they have to prepare for the adjustments Notre Dame's going to make against them now.
Oh yeah, I think that's the hardest thing for a coach. When you're undefeated or when you go on really long win streaks, when there are mistakes that are being made by the team, you cannot point to a game and say, we are getting beat because of this, because your guys will go, well, yeah, but we're still winning, so, whatever. Like, the details, the attention to detail is now not a foregone conclusion. It just escapes their minds, a little bit. Instead of getting that 2-slide, when, on the backside of a defense, they have guys kind of saying, oh, well, it's okay because he didn't catch the ball. Yeah, but he's still there open against a better team that's going to hurt us. But they say, oh, well, we won.
And as I mentioned before, because Notre Dame's defense just hasn't been good, they can't, shut down Maryland's offense, which we have seen this year can still be shut down or run dry.
Oh, yeah, they're honestly, that offense, I don't know what it is in terms of everything has to go through Chanenchuk, and that, like, if Chanenchuk does not have it going, which he didn't against Hopkins until very late in that game, and that's when they made their little spurt. Their offense really isn't that good technically.
So if Connor Kelly or Shane Doss don't have a good game, Maryland wins this game easily.
Yeah.
And so the second game, Duke and Syracuse.
Yeah, what a rematch. This is going to be obviously a lot closer than the 21-7 game, but I don't know. I mean, has Syracuse really? Apparently, Syracuse has fixed their face-off problems.
Dude, Daddio has really turned it around. I don't know what. It had to be a magic pill because that Notre Dame game the week after Duke, I don't know what happened, but since then, Daddio and Syracuse have been remarkable at the face-off ends.
Yeah, has he been winning like close to like high like mid 60% of his face-off since or something?
High 50s, man. He's been winning high 50s.
And that's all they need too, because they were competing in games, and last year obviously we saw they can make a run without a good face-off game.
Exactly. So you give that offense to Syracuse those extra possessions, man. That's oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I
going to be
can't
huge.
believe it.
I think. Do you think they pull off the upset this weekend?
They could. You know what it is though? It's just Duke, man.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Especially at the end of the year.
It's so weird, man. Like that Duke has actually been kind of quiet since the Syracuse game. Maybe because they just haven't had like real national games.
Yeah.
I mean, outside the Virginia game, that was a hell of a game, by the way. The Virginia-Duke game.
Yeah.
But I mean, Duke. I'll be honest. Duke's been kind of quiet lately. They've just been ho hum.
They've won like 10 straight.
8 straight.
8 straight, yeah.
That's still a lot. I mean, they're comfortably in the tournament.
Yeah,
Easily in
and
the
that
tournament.
includes wins over Notre Dame, Virginia, Harvard, Syracuse, North Carolina.
Exactly. Before we get to our predictions, can
Yeah.
I just say this on the record?
Right.
I would just love to see this of Duke being if Duke makes the tournament, obviously, and
Right.
if Hofstra somehow makes the tournament. Remember, the quarterfinals are at Hofstra this year.
Right.
I would love to see Duke and Hofstra.
Danowski makes his return to Hofstra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because remember, since he joined Duke, they've never played each other.
Yeah, that's not on purpose. I mean, that is on purpose. It's not a.
Dude, I would love to see that.
That would be an interesting storyline.
Of course, Duke would win that game.
I don't know. I think Hofstra could give them a run for their money for the first half or something.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they could. They easily could, but
I don't know about easy, man. They.
let's not get ahead of ourselves, though.
All right.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I mean, you see them more than I do.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they could. Believe me, if they
Right.
make the NCAA tournament, they're going to be a tough out. But again, let's wait and see. Back to the ACC,
Yeah.
I think Duke barely beats Syracuse.
By like a goal or or two max.
Yes, or it could go to overtime. Because you
Right.
know what? Duke this year has been defined by their defense. I read an article.
And they lost Dupree to an ACL injury
When?
this past week.
Are you serious?
Yeah. You didn't see Quint tweet about it?
No, they lost him in the Rutgers game?
Yeah. No, I think it was before. He didn't play the Rutgers game. They lost him in the game against Virginia or something, or in practice, I think it was. I don't know what it was. I think he left that game early. Yeah, he left that Virginia game early, and they didn't know what had happened to him. They thought it was just like, a regular knee injury, something that just needed rest. But he tore his ACL, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Killer.
So now he's out for the MLL season too.
Wow.
And I think he was a high draft pick.
Yeah, he was. Dude, that is brutal. That is brutal for Duke. I mean, their defense is still good, but
But it's still a big loss. He's the I think he's their top cause turnover guy.
yeah. I mean, you still have Henry Lobb though, but
And Casey Carroll, by the way, who's playing in his like 6th year and has had ACL injuries himself.
oh my gosh. I mean, and again, Syracuse's offense is just so good. I mean, that's going to be very difficult, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
I still now that's tough. I don't know.
Yeah, I would take Syracuse, honestly. They're riding as much as Duke's been on a hot streak with the 8 games, and they've 5 games over really good opponents. Syracuse is even hotter a little bit right now.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm gonna pull that quote unquote upset special.
You know what? I might actually change my pick now with that Dupree injury. I feel bad.
Yeah.
Their defense is still good. Their goaltending's been pretty consistent.
Right.
Also. But
Yeah.
you know what? Without Dupree, that opens up a lot of holes now. That, like, for example, that might open stuff. I mean, that might open a mismatch now with the long pole.
Donahue, or not Donahue. Someone from up top like Hakeem Lecky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, you still even also have Henry Shoemaker. Don't
Yeah.
forget Galasso recently. I mean, I know he's been used.
Have they been running him at midfield?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
actually had a pretty good game against North Carolina.
He's really fallen off. I know most of it was injuries, but he really fell off the planet after that one year where he just blew up the ACC.
You know what happened? Just the injuries killed him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The injuries, that's what did it in. But like he just fell off because of those injuries.
I think next year he'll have a bigger role, I would think, with Syracuse.
I hope so.
Having him on that second midfield makes such a huge mismatch.
Oh,
honestly.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Who do you take in the Maryland game then? Maryland in like a 1-goal game?
Maryland.
Yeah.
I'll say Maryland 2-goal game again. Because you know what? Again, I just don't trust Notre Dame's defense again to hold up.
You know what's funny is I will take Maryland, but I trust Notre Dame's defense because one, they're actually pretty good. They held Denver to only 10 goals that whole game. And also, and that's just me, looking at a high-powered offense, but their defense plays well. Liam O'Connor can challenge Charlie Raffa at the X and give him fits. So it's about 50-50. Maybe you go like 55-45 one way, whatever you got. And then the reason why I take Maryland is because that offense in Notre Dame is just so dependent on Kavanaugh. If Kavanaugh does not have like a Lyle Thompson type game for them, they really just have no options everywhere else. And Maryland's defense is good.
And Jim Malato's been he's been a role player for them. He only has 9 goals this year.
Yeah.
Connor Doyle still, he's still doing Connor Doyle stuff of pitching in as a good secondary scorer. But
Right,
I mean,
but they have nobody else. It's like Kavanaugh with
Yeah.
like 40 points, Doyle with like 20, and then nobody else goes above like 12.
yeah, Will Corrigan having a bad season also.
Yeah.
He actually played good last year. I'm surprised by that. He's only got 5 points.
Yeah, so I mean that's just my bugaboo on that. So I think it's a Maryland Cuse matchup, and it's going to be a lot closer than that massacre that happened at the Dome. I honestly don't even want to pick Maryland because Maryland, these close games are things that Maryland as a fan they drop. They really drop the ball in these games.
Just speaking like a true Tar Heel fan right now.
It's a little better than the Tar Heels, but they do it a lot. And that one year they made the championship game, not the Loyola year, the year before against Virginia. I went to they got over the hurdle. They never won a Final Four in my lifetime, and they had made the Final Four like every year. They finally beat Duke. It was a great year. They were riding the wave of the young, obviously the death of Ryan Young's mother, unfortunately, to cancer. And they had the whole M.Y. Young thing going on. They had a feel-good story, John Tillman in his first year. And they played Virginia, and they just dropped the ball against Virginia. And that was so long story short, Syracuse, I think, pulls it off and really puts themselves back on the map.
You know what? That wouldn't shock me if Syracuse wins. You know what? I'll go with that. I'll go with Syracuse winning it.
Yeah.
If they beat Duke, I think they win the ACC. No matter who they play, Notre Dame
Right.
or in Maryland.
Yeah. Well, especially Notre Dame. I mean, if you did like a power ranking of the top 4 teams, what would you do? Power ranking 1, 2, 3, 4. Like teams, I guess you most likely to win to least likely to win.
In the ACC?
Yeah.
I would say then Syracuse, Duke, Maryland, and Notre Dame.
I agree with you 100%. And Notre Dame's not even close. Like you would take those top 3 and you can make strong cases for every single one. Notre Dame, you just look at that offense and go, I don't know, man. That's really bad offense.
It's weird because I would have Virginia honestly in that top 4 if they had made it. But
Yeah, but they're
they just did win their games.
yeah, they dropped the ball after going undefeated in the first 6 games.
Say, I feel so bad for North Carolina because you know what? I could see North Carolina win this ACC if they made it.
And they thought they were going to turn the corner after against Maryland.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. So I mean I think that's it from us. I mean we put it in like a good hour 20 minutes of just good strong analysis.
Yeah, good to get back on the schneid.
Yeah, man.
Next week we'll have pretty good. I like this after the chaos.
After hours. It's like our after hours, like NCAA Lax Gameday after hours.
We'll see how our schedules work next week. I know I'm doing Battle of Bethpage next week for Schreiber's last game, so
Yeah.
we'll see how that happens. And then, are you going next week to the Lizards home opener? I know I am.
Sunday night?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know because I'll be in the city Saturday, like all day basically, and then I have to make the trek from Jersey in. I do have buddies out there, and obviously, like I could probably come stay with you, but like I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So, a nice job today, Mr. Andrew.
Yes. As to you, John. You got a crazy prediction for tonight that you could obviously, do really well on if you read the books?
Oh, I got to put my power rankings up, my predictions quickly.
Yes.
Let's see. Top 3 star prediction for tonight's show. Let's see. I'm gonna go number 3. Storming Giants fan.
Okay.
Number 2. Davos's beard.
Okay.
And number 1. I'm going to say Jamie's. What was it? Jamie's hand, or do I want to go with Tyler Lannister's grin?
Yeah, okay. I'm going to go with an awkward top 3 to go off yours. I'm going to go with number 3, Arya Stark killing someone. Number 2, what's his face? The bastard king who tortured Renly. Renly just does something crazy because that's going to happen. Yeah, and then number 1 is Jaime Lannister and his sister, if something happens there. I don't know if they get back together and do an incest again, or if...
I'm gonna change my number 1. Jamie and Cersei. That's all. Jamie and Cersei.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. All right, buddy. Good job. Later.
Have a good week. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. That'll do it for us today on NCAA Lax Gameday. You can tweet at us at NCAA Lax Gameday. We'll hopefully, possibly, maybe, not sure about Saturday.